Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the 2024-2025 Board of Aldermen Budget Deliberations. Today is April 15th, 2024, and today we are here for the public comment portion of the aldermanic budget process. But before we begin, will everyone please rise and join me as we salute our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Alderman Archiola.
Present.
Alderman Beatty.
Present.
Alderman Bevan. Alderman Casey.
Here.
Alderman Federico.
Here.
Alderman Fowler.
Here.
Alderman Healy. Alderman Jenkins.
Here.
Alderman Marlowe.
Here.
Alderman Mulrennan.
Here.
Alderman Picelli.
Alderman Picelli is going to be a little late, Madam Secretary.
Thank you. Alderman Smith. Alderman Vitro.
Here.
Alderman Vitale. Alderman Willis. Alderman Willis.
Here.
14 are present.
We have 14 present. We do have a quorum. Thank you, Madam Secretary. This is the budget meeting devoted to public comment. We will start with the education side of the budget first, and then move to the city side of the budget. Please remember that the time limit granted to each speaker shall be 3 minutes. I'm going to ask you to stick it to 3 minutes because obviously we've got a lot of people to speak tonight. Residents, taxpayers, and electors may address the board at this time. The board encourages the speakers not to express derogatory, insensitive, or offensive statements or to engage in personal attacks against individuals. In order to allow everyone an opportunity to speak, I'd ask that everyone please limit their comments to 3 minutes. Any speaker wishing to comment on the education side of the budget, please come to the podium. Please state your name and address clearly for the secretary, for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Ellen Montfort. Good evening, members of the Board of Aldermen, Mayor Giannatasio, and the Milford community. My name is Ellen Montfort. I'm here tonight to express my concerns about the education budget increase for Milford. Although the proposed budget increase of $4.7 million was rejected by the Democrat-controlled Board of Finance, the amount that was approved still amounts to a $3.6 million increase to City of Milford taxpayers. Certain members of our media and community are painting this amount as a cut to the education budget. It is not. Some of the deferred items proposed seem inappropriate to me in light of the 32 highly compensated teacher coaches that have been highly scrutinized on social media. Burdening Milford taxpayers with this inflated budget increase at a time when families are struggling in a bad economy is unfair and unsustainable. Fiscal responsibility must be prioritized to ensure this budget reflects the economic realities of our community. I have researched and obtained the following figures from the National Center for Education and Public School Review for accuracy. Shelton is a similar city to Milford in terms of demographics and student population. The percentage of students in Shelton that scored at or above proficiency on reading and language is 62%. Milford comes in at 58%. Shelton's math figures are 46% and Milford's are 44%. Shelton's student spending is $21,697 with total revenue at $94 million. Milford's student spending is at $28,076 with total revenue at $153 million. Orange, albeit a smaller student population, has scores of 69% for reading and 58% for math. Their total student spending is $21,606 and spending has remained relatively flat for the last 4 years. Shelton spending has increased by 9% over the last 4 years and Milford's has increased by 8%. So overall, Milford's spending per student is nearly $6,500 more per student than Shelton or Orange, but our scores are lower on reading and math proficiency. So I ask, is our increased spending resulting in better outcomes? It would appear not. What should be reduced further in education budget spending? It is widely circulated around Milford that the teacher coaches do not have any direct interaction with the student. What exactly is their contribution to their learning? Are our teachers subpar? Is that why they need to be coached? Our reading and math scores are poor in my opinion. Less than 50% of our students have proficiency in math. Why? I am all for spending on our students' education as they are our future. The coaches' salaries surely are a large item in this budget. They have only been present for a few years here in Milford, and it would appear that this investment has not paid off. Perhaps that money spent could be better purposed elsewhere in helping our students achieve better outcomes in math and reading proficiency. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman, thank you for letting me speak. My name is Michael Ranella. I've been a lifelong Milford resident, and I'm someone who's been involved in the use and care of nonprofit money for scouts and youth baseball. The increase of $3.6 million over the current year given by the Board of Finance should be sufficient for the school system to provide for its students. We learn to stay within our means and make do with available funding. In other words, do more with less. And in speaking with fellow residents and friends, it's time to have a look internally at administrative and staff in both the office and the schools themselves. My main concern is the amount of money allocated to the middle management layer. The positions of 32 coaches, why would we need 32 people to teach the teachers? I would think hiring tutors for the students in need of extra help would be a better use of our money. I'm wondering if there's any studies or research or statistics that would help us understand what these 32 coaches have accomplished for our students. Are the test scores better? Are the kids getting the extra help they need? Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Aldermen, Mr. Mayor. I want to speak about some people I've been talking to this week.
Mr. Chairman?
Sorry, Nick Richie, Burn Plains Road, sorry about that. I want to talk about some people I've been talking to this week, the school teachers, who are afraid to speak up. Teachers are not happy with the district, especially the superintendent and their department heads. The union just surveyed elementary school teachers and asked about coaching curriculum last Wednesday. The teachers aren't happy at the elementary level. The teachers are embarrassed at the curriculum they are using right now. It is outdated and horrible. Milford is so far behind other school systems right now. The school system in Milford is failing the students and children. Teachers are not proud to be Milford teachers. They love their jobs. They love what they do. They love teaching. They love their classrooms. But they do not feel supported by the administration at this time. The administration is so removed from the classroom, they have no idea what is going on. The coaching system, as it currently stands, is an absolute joke. They are not helping the teachers. Many of the teachers know more than the coaches do. You do not need specific degrees to be a teaching coach in the city of Milford. They do not see students. The teachers do not have any help with the children who are struggling in math and reading. Too many kids are going to testing, special ed, and they can't keep up because there's no help in between. They keep saying the teachers are doing it, but it's not possible. They should look at these coaching jobs and cut them immediately. Each building could have one coach in reading and one in math, but they should see students. They should help the students. They should not go between downtown and the teachers. They are never working with the teachers and constantly in meetings. They say we are collaborating with them and the teachers are getting all the ideas, but it's an absolute waste of resources. The teachers I've been speaking to have over 30 years experience and have never been so disgusted and disappointed in the district. It's disheartening to them. They are embarrassed of the lack of curriculum. We are going backwards, not moving forward as a school system. They always say Milford provides for his students, but they don't. It's a lie. Yet we can't ask parents for anything. School classrooms are out of tissues, markers, and other items that are needed daily. but the teachers can't order these because it's not in the budget at the time. There should be a meeting with the elementary school teachers and find out what's going on, but this cannot happen because they are afraid of retaliation. The administration has said numerous times, if you don't like it, there's the door. You're either on my team or off my team. The whole high-quality education is a farce. They're promoting high-quality instruction. Milford has always given high-quality instruction, but now the superintendent is promoting it, so someday maybe she could write a book, maybe she can make money off it, I don't know. This is done at our children's expense. We need teachers, not coaches. Teachers are afraid to go to the Board of Ed because in fear of going public due to fear of retaliation. This is a toxic culture causing the district to lose good teachers. Hopefully this message will get out. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name's Berman, and I used to be chair of the Environmental Concerns Coalition here in Milford. And just a few years ago, I remember we always had a newsletter, and this time we mentioned climate change. I got a call from the Department of Education saying that they wanted me to change that. And I said, well, science has to be taught in early school. And it was just great. I was pretty upset at the time that it was dismissed. In fact, I heard that many teachers didn't even believe there was such a thing as climate change. Well, things have really escalated. And anyone knows anything about what's going on in the earth, it's very dire. So my speech tonight is to really encourage in keeping the budget for the Board of Ed, and that all this money should go even more to make sure all these students are evaluated as to their abilities, because they are going to have to deal with this crisis that we are going to inherit very soon. We already have seen it happen with the increase of the tides, and that's just nothing that's going to be happening. We need educated kids, and they need to be fostered, each one of them to be ensured that they are going to be our security for our future. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dan Gurman, 114 Beach Ave, Milford. Chairman Vitro, Board of Aldermen, Mayor Giannatasio. I am here today as a property owner and a taxpayer, and am concerned and frustrated with the large increase in the proposed mill rate and taxes for this year's proposed city budget, of which the majority of the budget comes from the Board of Education side. They are looking for a $5 million increase on top of a $4 million increase last year. This is the largest tax increase in 12 years at a time when costs and inflation are high, insurance costs are up, utilities are out of control, food costs, medical costs, all your costs are going up. For many years, the Board of Education came in at a reasonable increase at 1%, 0.5%, 1.5%, for many years, but this year and last year were some of the worst increases, all while student enrollment has been declining. For the last 10 to 12 years, or as long as I can remember, student enrollment has been declining in Milford. Every year it's been declining, yet the budget has been increasing. Many people move to Milford for the taxes, one of the lowest in the area, except for Shelton. But the last couple of years, there's been more pressure to increase taxes significantly, and taxpayers are struggling, seniors are struggling, and are getting squeezed out. At what point is enough enough? When will we have a reduction in the Board of Ed budget due to declines in enrollment? That would make a lot of sense. And it's not that we're not allocating enough per student. We are. Our cost per student is much higher in Milford than surrounding towns, and one of the highest in the state. I am not anti-education, but times are tough, and we all have to learn to do more with less as taxpayers, and this can be done and will be done. It seems that all other departments have worked extremely hard at reducing costs and becoming much more efficient. I'm sure the police department would and could use another $500,000, or the fire department, or certainly the public works department can use an extra $1 million. But everything is a balance. How can we do more or keep our services with less or reasonable taxes? As it stands now, we will have a $250 million budget, which represents a 5.7% increase in the mill rate. And that's after the Board of Ed cut $1 million from the Board of Education. I think we can do better. I encourage another $1 million cut from the Board of Education. At the very least, certainly don't give back the $1 million already cut by the Board of Finance. That would still total a $3 million increase over last year's Board of Education budget. We can do better. With that, I thank you, and thank you for your service to Milford.
Good evening, Kelly Cummings, 7 Chapel Street, Milford. I'm here today to shed light on why families are choosing to relocate to Milford, drawing from my 16 years of experience as a real estate agent and 33 years of owning an appraisal business. When families approach me, their primary concern is about the quality of our schools. They want to know not only how close schools are, but the investments we as a community are making across elementary, middle, and high schools, and that their children will receive the help they need to be prepared for the future. Extracurriculars like sports, music, and clubs, these are critical to families because they foster a sense of community, excitement about being in the schools. Parents also are thinking about the availability of special education support and mental health resources. They want to know if this community will encourage, embrace, and grow with the ever-changing needs of our children. As a parent of 6 children, 3 who have gone through the Milford school systems, with my youngest graduating from 4 and 3 years ago, I have firsthand experience of how we have made progress, sound investments over the years. I can confidently share this with prospective Milford buyers. I endorse these investments in Milford schools. Not only do they benefit my professional directly, but as a resident, I firmly believe they are instrumental to the Milford community and attractiveness to families seeking a place to call home. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Mary Oak, better known as Emmy. I came forward and spoke more than once last year, and here I am again. I would like to see the Board of Ed budget reinstated. I was horrified, disgusted, and appalled by Board of Finance cutting the budget, this time $1.3 million. Yes, that's a little less than $1.8 million last year. For the future, education is completely different from when I was a kid or when any of you were. Computer technology is the future. That also goes for camera equipment for safety, all of which need to be paid for. It costs money. Now, children, if they don't get an education to stimulate to be productive human beings and have jobs, you will have higher unemployment than you do now, which I know right across this country is lower, but it will go right back up again. You've got a high number of homeless people and hungry people all over this country and here in Milford. You have a percentage of children attending the schools that have been bussed in from Bridgeport, Meriden, Shelton. That number, and there's a few other towns too, that number increased this year. That's not going away. Last year it was 21. This year it's 25. It will increase. It's not going away. that costs more money to get them into the school than a regular bus route. So that will increase after September. So you have to take all of these things into consideration. Now, you hear my British voice. I was born in this country, but the bulk of my education was in the UK, but my special education as a dyslexic took place in this country, thanks to my grandmother who paid for it. If that money hadn't been there, I would have been totally useless, and I would have never reached of being second in command of the biggest design studio in carpets in this country. I had a chance. You need to give kids a chance. If you don't, when you're very old and you're needing medical attention, you won't get it. And you will just have to look at yourselves of why. Because the kids didn't get a chance. And that's the same with technology. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Carolee Shultz and I live at 100 Seaflower Road. I come here as a concerned parent of 2 students in the Milford Public School system. I've been fighting this battle for as long as my children have been in the public school system. I attend almost every Board of Finance meeting, Board of Ed meeting, and Board of Aldermen meeting. I'm very educated in what goes on and how long this takes and how hard our Board of Education works on the budget. And it continues to bother me that a non-elected board continues to cut our funding. I continue to watch on social media the Republican Town Committee and the Democratic Town Committee fight back and forth, and our children are the crossfires. It's very unfortunate. My child in first grade is touched by our school coach. He's behind in reading, and our first grade teacher intervened there and talked to the school coach, and now the school coach comes in the classroom and works with our teacher and my son to get him better at reading. If you cut that out, what happens? How's my son going to be able to continue to learn to read at the proper level of first grade? It's imperative that these children learn to read, and these coaches and teachers are a big part of that. Let's stop using social media and town parties and let our children be the crossfires. Thank you.
My name is Stephanie Kanaan. I live at 23 Marie Street. Good evening. I'm in favor of restoring the 2024-2025 education budget, and I fully support Dr. Kutaya's vision for our schools. My family and I moved to Milford from Fairfield 6 years ago. We were looking for a place that had a great school system, a community-like feel, as well as great access to beaches. Milford checked off all the boxes for us. The city was able to give us everything that Fairfield offered, but at a more reasonable price. As a result of choosing Milford, our daughters are thriving due to the opportunities given to them by Milford Public Schools. Our youngest, who is receiving services, is excelling in kindergarten because of the curriculum and exposure to the arts, STEM, world language that the district provides. When I talk about Milford Public Schools with friends and family who live in other towns, they are always impressed with what our kids are learning and the opportunities that are given to them because of Dr. Kutaya's vision. However, if we continue to lose funding, there won't be any bragging rights over how amazing our schools are because of these investments will cease to bring families and young people to our city. It's important that we don't lose sight of how integral a public school system is to a city. Education was a top reason of why my family moved here. It will be detrimental to our city if people see that education is not a key investment. Milford cannot afford to be at a competitive disadvantage, especially if people feel like they can get similar services elsewhere without always worrying about whether those services will be taken away from them. Once again, I look to our elected elders for their leadership and call on our mayor to keep his campaign promise and prominently advocate for education funding. Thank you.
Ralph Picelli, 1093 West River Street in Milford. I'm here this evening to speak in opposition to the increase in the education budget. I'd like to make my position clear that I am pro-education. And speaking as a citizen and taxpayer of Milford, I have 3 children that attended K through 12, including myself, and the Milford school system has done a lot of great things over the years. Our community is reaching a crossroads where the school system is year after year seeking increases in the budget, which will result in an increase in our property taxes. From my understanding, several cost reduction recommendations were suggested, and they were not implemented. My question is why? We must be innovative and open to recommendations as to where reductions can be made. At times, budget reductions may result in educational personnel being laid off. However, sacrifices must be made. Organizations need to evaluate their structure to determine if there is too much bureaucracy. We know that bureaucracy loves bureaucracy. We've seen it. The public sector, unlike part of the private sector, receives guaranteed pay increases due to union contracts. We have witnessed that increases in the Milford school budgets have not yielded increases in students' performance. This is a concern because I know of no organization where system rewards underperformance. One of the unintended consequences of increasing budgets, school budgets or any budget, is one of the unintended consequences is that it increases property taxes. And this will decrease the value of homes. Just look at the communities where you know they have high taxes and low values of their homes. So for those that saying, well, we don't care about the increase, people will come here and live here. Who wants to come and live anywhere that has high taxes? Pick any town that has high taxes. I don't see them selling a lot of homes. And when will the cycle end of a budget and property tax increases consistently? The administrators can do better by working together and identifying solutions. We need to be conscious of the high cost and the tax burden that we are placing on the citizens of Milford. Citizens are being asked to do more with less. So why doesn't the school system do the same? The only thing that is permanent and is change. And if change does not take place, our financial future will look bleak. Thank you.
Andrew King, 32 Cedarhurst Lane. Mr. Chairman, I've seen a lot of comments and posts that the Board of Ed is getting their budget cut. As it currently stands, their budget has not been cut. To put it in simpler terms, I have an analogy. Let's say you have a job where your salary is $106 million a year. You go to your boss and ask for a raise to $111 million a year. Your boss says that he can't do that, but he can give you a raise to $109.9 million a year. That's not a pay cut. That's a raise. And with the Board of Ed, there is plenty of fat that could be cut from the budget that will have no effect on the education of our children. One only needs to look at the 32 mid-level management positions known as teacher coaches. There's 4 in each grammar school, plus more in the high schools. These positions cost the city millions of dollars, and they never see our children. Secondly, there's another thing I want to address. It was an article that was put in the Milford Patch by Alderman Federico. She cites a $4.3 million one-time reduction for health insurance costs that should be calculated in the city budget. I think this is being confused with budget gimmicks that were used in the recent or previous administrations. These kind of gimmicks that keep the city accountants up at night. That $4.3 million is an actual savings to the city, and it cannot be considered an increase. And since it was brought up, I think it's also fair to point out that the health insurance costs for the Board of Ed employees and for school nurses are not part of the Board of Education's budget. Those costs are paid for by the city. The Board of Education's budget would be even worse if those costs were factored into their budget. In closing, I just want to ask the Board of Aldermen to be fiscally responsible on all the decisions that you make on both the city and the Board of Education's budget. Please keep in mind the tremendous burden that this puts on the Milford taxpayer. I've heard previous people say you need to do more with less. Well, what's happening is that we're doing more with less, and the Board of Education is going to end up getting more, and that's not fair. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is Mike Rizzo, 12 Snug Harbor Road, Milford. I have 2 children in the school system. I'm speaking to support the full funding of the Milford Board of Education budget as proposed by the Milford Board of Education. I do not support the approximately $1.3 million reduction made by the Board of Finance, and I hope that you will not either. The Board of Ed proposed a thoughtful and intentional budget designed for our school system to make progress. While this budget does propose system improvements, specifically in the area of special education, many of these improvements include necessary items like textbooks, various forms of hardware and software for student learning, music instruments, security cameras, among other items. These incremental steps and careful planning are indicators of the Board of Ed's fiscal responsibility. To be clear, however, these improvements are neither flashy nor excessive, and are probably more accurately described as the cost of doing business while operating a school system in 2024. Several individuals supporting the budget reduction have cited that the 4.7 increase is not sustainable, and I appreciate the consideration that must be given to the impact the budget has on on the city and all of its citizens. I have a different point of view, however, on what sustainable means for a public school system. In my opinion, not fully funding school budgets and making reductions to the BOE proposed budget of this magnitude create unsustainable conditions for a school system and a city to thrive. When proposed budgets are reduced by numbers in the millions, the only place to find money is in people, programs, and facilities. There is no amount of paper, pencils, or band uniforms that will achieve a $1.3 million reduction. This is the case here, as the reduction to the Board of Ed's proposed budget by $1.3 million forces the Board of Education to identify facilities and new programming to achieve this reduction. Regarding that programming, the Board of Education proposed budget carefully invested approximately $500,000 in building special education programs within the school district for students with the highest level of need. Special education costs do not decrease. The best and most effective way to curb the cost of special education is to do exactly what the Board of Ed has done here: build and invest in programs within our school district. In the absence of programs like this, out-of-district tuition costs will increase, out-of-district transportation costs will increase, and potentially litigation costs will increase. In short, the city will fund these needs one way or another, and it is advisable to do so in a proactive and planful manner, as the BOE has proposed. Regarding facilities, the effects of deferring maintenance can be disastrous. I encourage the Board of Education to continue to work alongside its city counterparts and create a maintenance and capital management plan that identifies needs, creates a timeline, and smooths out costs year over year. To create financial conditions that lead to deferred facilities work and maintenance, to not have long-term plans that are developed, revisited annually, and shared publicly, can lead to costs that far exceed the simple maintenance requests in any annual budget. I want the city of Milford to be excellent for all of its citizens. The school system plays a very significant role in how Milford is viewed, both from a distance and those from within its boundaries, and for those working within its schools. Any reduction to the fiscally responsible and targeted budget proposed by the Board of Education diminishes that view, negatively impacts our city and our students. Alternatively, a vote tonight or soon hereafter to adopt the Board of Education budget as proposed by the Board of Education, restoring what was reduced by the Board of Finance, has the ability to send a strong message regarding Milford's commitment to its schools, to its citizens, to its school employees, and to its students. Thank you.
My name is Jalil. I live at 478 Roses Mill Road. Good evening. As a proud parent and a member of our vibrant community, I urge you to consider the impact of the proposed budget cuts on our schools and, most importantly, our students. As parents, we often work extra hours, sacrificing our own needs to ensure our children have all they require. We ask the town of Milford to embrace that parental mindset, to provide unconditionally for our children's growth, without taking away the essential resources that nurture their education and well-being. These cuts threaten to undermine the very foundation of our education system. For example, Special education teacher positions and maintenance work may seem small, but they're very vital to creating an environment where every student can thrive. Cutting these resources would not only diminish the quality of our education for some of our most vulnerable students, but also weaken the bond of our tight-knit community. Think about the long-term consequences of deferred maintenance on our school buildings. While saving money now, neglecting essential repairs could lead to costly emergencies and compromises in our learning environment. Our schools should be havens for learning and growth, where every student feels valued and supported. I understand the need for financial responsibility, but let's not sacrifice our students' future for short-term savings. Instead, let's prioritize our children and their education. Please remember, when you invest in your children, they invest in you. When we invest in our students, we invest in the very fabric of our community. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jen Delvechio. I live at 9 Mill Pond Close. I'm here to tell you that I fully support education. However, this current budget does not put students first. Central office administration and thought leaders are being prioritized over teachers and students. The focus is not on student achievement, support, or even the basic supplies that our teachers need for students. We should not be here again with parents having to worry if student-centric services are going to be cut. It is a fact that last year's budget, even though it was fully funded, fell short because spending was not focused on the kids. We've been in a spending freeze since February, and our schools and teachers cannot get the supplies they need. We need less people at the top telling our teachers how to teach and more people doing the teaching. We need less administration in central office and more people who have direct impact on student achievement. We need reading, writing, and math specialists. We need more services for students, less central office staff who do not directly impact student achievement. HQI is a failed experiment and only works for above-level learners. It is failing our students, and our teachers cannot speak up. I'm the parent who has spoken about my son Joseph. He has been behind grade level for years. Maybe it's because we don't have enough people at the school level working directly with students. Thank you very much for your time.
Hello, my name is Christopher Thomas. I live at 8 Argyle Road. We've heard a lot of good comments here tonight. And great from the last speaker. I like to hear from parents in the district. The other parents that have spoken out have told you the coaches do work with the students. A lot of rumors going around. New rumors, by the way. Nobody's speaking out really at the Board of Education hearings. Not a peep at the Board of Finance hearings. But now it becomes political and whew. Instructional coaches, evil, bum, bum, bum. It's a very dramatic turn of events. It makes one wonder, is this authentic? Or maybe is it politics? Now, if people are concerned, good. I'm a civics teacher. You should be curious, all right? Citizens, especially elected officials, should be curious and skeptical. But what many of you are doing here and what many people who have spoken are doing is waiting until the last minute and then complaining about something. That's not going to solve it. We're just riling people up. You've had plenty of chances. No one is stopping you from going to a Board of Ed meeting. No one is stopping you from contacting your Board of Ed members. I read some stuff online. They're hiding the numbers. No, they're not. They're in the minutes. Read the minutes. Go to the meetings. Our meetings are on YouTube. All you gotta do is watch them to keep track. So these false narratives, or at least at best these incomplete narratives, are very annoying. Our schools are great. Whether you like it or not, whether people want to talk about it or not, our schools have incredibly high rankings. Yes, the test scores have dipped, and if you want to ask questions and the Board of Ed wants to ask questions of Dr. Kataya and her staff about that, let them explain it. But every other metric, we were just on the news this morning because we won an award for our music education. Our student athletes are performing at incredible levels. Our AP scholar numbers have increased from Dr. Feeser right through Dr. Kataya. People aren't moving here. People are worried about the taxes. My property value has doubled in the last 20 years. So have all of yours. All right? Yeah, maybe that makes taxes go up a little bit, but the fact is the investment I made moving here was the right investment. People come here because of the schools. Businesses come here because of the schools. Your taxes, again, I'm trying to say taxes are high in Milford. Like, I don't want to call it a lie, but let's call it a misunderstanding. Look around at every other town around us and try and tell us our taxes are high for the amount of wonderful services we get in this town. People were flocking to this town during COVID and since and before. We see new homes and new condos going up so fast, it's crazy. So there's definitely not an issue with people not moving here. That's not a concern, that's not a truth. I would ask you to restore the full funding, but I know that's a hard ask. That's 10 votes. Consider at least giving half the funding. You know this is right. Last year, Mayor Giannastasia helped lead an effort along with the Democrats. You got unanimous approval to restore the full funding. Nothing's different now. All right? Nothing's different now. If it wasn't unanimous, I'm sorry, it was near unanimous. I apologize for my inaccuracy. It had to be 10 out, it had to be more than 10 out of 15. So it was a super majority because that's how it gets increased. All right? You got to ask yourself, is anything different now, or are we speaking at the wrong time? Are the comments we're making here tonight, are the things we've seen online more appropriate for Board of Ed meetings? Are they more appropriate for your Board of Ed members to bring up? Are they more appropriate for the future? All right? You have no control over what the Board of Ed does with the bottom line dollars. So you can say you should cut this, you should cut that. You have no legal power whatsoever. Dr. Kataya and the school board are going to cut and they're going to keep exactly what they want to, because that's what they're elected and that's what they're empowered to do. Please think hard, because you're definitely going to hurt kids. And our kids are wonderful, our school district's wonderful, our city is wonderful. And I want to say fight. I will have a long, healthy debate with anyone who disputes any of those facts. Thank you very much.
My name's Robin Iktar. I live at 1414 Windward Road in Milford. I got a copy of what was the proposed going over from Board of Ed. I'm a little concerned. My son has spastic quadriplegic cerebral palsy. He's also mostly blind. I moved to Milford specifically because of BESB recommendations and Birth to 3 recommendations. To find that you guys are thinking about cutting programs makes me think that we should have either moved somewhere else or should be looking at different schools. I'm looking specifically at the mayor because I voted for you. You promised education. My kid is a big deal. He can't walk, he can't talk. Most of the things that normal kids would be able to do, James can't do. Like, please follow through on this. You promised us things. Also, on the PTA, real friendly. Thanks, guys.
Hi, my name is Courtney Higgins. I live at 256 West Main Street, Milford, and I'm talking on behalf of both my kids who are in the school system. My oldest goes to Orange Ave, and my son, who's autistic in special ed, goes to Calf Penn Meadow. I'm speaking more on behalf of the special ed aspect. Currently, he is thriving. I can't ask for more. When he was 2, he started showing signs of autism at the time we lived in Trumbull. And things sucked. They didn't have the resources. School systems were not as great as Milford. So we uprooted our whole family to move to Milford for his schooling. Our oldest daughter loves where she goes, and she is hoping that she could become a doctor or a nurse and do a profession in the medical field. And my son, although he's autistic, wants to become a teacher because he loves how his teacher is Mrs. Durso. I don't know if any of you are familiar with her, but both of them cannot speak any more higher than their teachers. And I fear with the budget cuts that my son will not be able to thrive anymore, especially if things are taken away. He's in an IEP, he has occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech. And my oldest daughter, even though she's in regular education, she has some difficulty with math. Now I know to become a doctor or nurse, you need to know math. And my fear is without the extra resources for both of my kids, they cannot get into that career. And it will affect other children's career. I hope none of you guys have to have medical help really, really bad, but in the instance that it happens, it might affect not just my kids, but other future careers because of budget cuts. Thank you. Have a nice night.
Good evening. My name is Megan DelMonte, and I reside at 86 Walnut Street. I found myself wanting to talk about my position in the Milford Public School and this narrative that's going around. I've been in the district for 17 years, having taught kindergarten for 11 and a half years before leaving the classroom to become a reading interventionist, and now as an instructional coach. I spoke in front of the Board of Education last year about my experience as a reading interventionist, and this year I thought I would talk to them and you about my role as a coach. If you saw the December 13th literacy highlight from the Board of Ed, you heard a voice, a coach's voice. That voice was mine. I'd worked with the teacher and the students in that kindergarten class. This was the teacher's first year in the grade. I worked closely with the teacher at the beginning of the year to launch curriculum, small groups, and literacy work choices, all the while engaging with students and working with them as I supported their teacher. See, that's the best part of my job. I still work with kids. I work with them every day. Each time I go into the classroom, I am engaged with them. I know every single one of the students in my school, and they know me. I couldn't do that if I'm up in my room all day long, not working with kids. I build teacher capacity around literacy skills. I literally work side by side with teachers, analyze data, think about what students need, and do side-by-side teaching. Teachers are understanding the importance of foundational skills and the why behind what we are teaching. They are gaining knowledge of high-leverage routines and are making shifts in their classroom that are bettering all their students. I work with kids each and every day. I work with kids when they step into their classroom and work alongside their teacher. I work with kids when they push and cozy up next to them and talk about their reading and writing. I work with kids when I pull small groups. That's right, I pull small groups as a literacy coach. I work with the neediest and the most struggling. That mom earlier in the night talking about her first grade student, I'm the coach that's in that room working with her student. I am very proud of the work that myself and the other 31 instructional coaches are doing with Milford Public Schools, mostly because we're working with kids.
That was an important one. Hi, my name is Ryan McConnell. I live at 114 Maple Street. I wanted to come up and speak a little bit about my feeling of profound thanks. My thanks for the very reasonable discussion you guys had last year in the midst of what was very heightened rhetoric, rightly so. The outcome, I thought, as someone who didn't get everything he wanted out of the outcome, was still really good, a show of what our town does when everyone comes together, thinks about what's important, finds a middle path. I think we're back at a similar moment now. This fall, I was thankful again, no matter which mayor I voted for, they were both saying that education was important. That made me very happy. And I'm so glad to see everyone here, being jazzed up about this, listening, being ready to talk about it. So I'm thankful for you, for the work you're about to do, for the work you'll have talking to Dr. Kataya, and the work you will do coming to a reasonable middle path, I'm sure, about this budget. Some brief stuff that I want to say personally. I have a student who has a special education plan in this system. He's at Orange Avenue. I specifically remember the meeting kicking off that special plan. It has been a long process, but there were 5 people from the school district at the table with my wife and I as we talked about how we were going to make sure our son didn't fall behind. One was his teacher, one was the principal, and there were 3 other people whose titles, gun to my head, I could not remember, but I am thankful every day for the amount of work they did leading up to that meeting, the analysis they did of my son's needs, and in the aftermath of that meeting, the achievement he has been able to succeed at because of the work those non-teacher people did before that meeting, at that meeting, and after that meeting. I have a whole spiel about also being a business owner in this town and how businesses come into towns, and somebody beat me to it. They look at the school district, they look at the community. I said this a lot last year. I probably annoyed you guys with it, said it so many times, so I won't do much more than that. I thank you for being reasonable. I thank you for hearing all of us, and I thank you for the good work you're about to do as you all get into the nitty-gritty of talking about the budget. Thank you.
Can we add step stools to the budget?
My name is Katrina Snow. We're at 41 Beaverbrook Road. I just want to first start off by saying that I don't envy what any of you have to do. I went down a wormhole for the past 3 days reading everything. It is incredible what goes on. I have been a taxpayer longer than I have been a parent, so I could say I'm a taxpayer first and a mom second. I don't know that anyone else would say that, so I'm in a very interesting position. I stand here as a reminder and an example. A reminder being that I'm here on behalf of Girl Scout Troop 30328. The ones that are still awake are right over here. We brought the girls because this is a troop that is a combination of a lot of different schools in the system. And these are powerful little ladies. And they're going to be in charge one day. May they use their powers for good, but they are in the education system, and I think about them as the example that in 10 years from now, they're going to be looking for jobs in this community. They might work for one of you. They might work for people in the audience. 20 years from now, they may do, as me being the reminder, go through the entire school system and then say, I want to go back after college and I want to raise my family in Milford. Or my friends that don't have kids, I want to be in Milford, I want to be a citizen, I want to be close to my parents, I want to be in that community. I know that our former mayor, I went to high school with him, did all those things, went to college, came back, and gave back to his community because he loved it here. These girls love Milford. I love Milford. I may have a tattoo that shows that, okay? So I'm here as the reminder that I went through the school system and I left and I came back because I knew that I wanted to raise my family here. I wanted to be a part of the community. And I hope that they do that too, however they do it. And in the not so near future, when we're all getting thrown in the old age homes, they're going to be the ones making the decisions. And as a taxpayer and as a parent, I would turn my pockets inside out for these kids. I complain about the taxes, don't get me wrong, everywhere, but someone said it before. There are places surrounding us that pay way more and have way less. So that's kind of I'm in this weird crossroads. I've known Dan since I was 7. My daughter is 7. And I agree. I agree with what he is saying, and I also agree with everyone on the school system. So it is a unique position to be in as a parent right now, but I will say that remember that in the future, these are the minds that are going to be here making the decisions in the not so near future. Would you like to say anything?
My name is Amelia Snow, and I go to JFK, and
What would you like to ask them to do?
can you please support my education?
Thank you.
Well,
Well, that's hard to follow, I guess. Hey, I'm MJ Shannon, 33 Foreign Road. Members of the Board of Aldermen, I'm here today to address the recent cut to the proposed Board of Education budget by the Board of Finance. I understand the importance of managing taxpayer funds responsibly and prioritizing the financial stability of our city. However, we must not lose sight of our commitment to providing our students with the high-quality education they deserve. As a graduate of the Milford Public Schools, I've seen firsthand what a smart, long-term investment in our education can look like, and I stand here as a successful adult because of the opportunities a Milford Public School education has provided me. The proposed budget cut could severely impact our students' educational experiences and future opportunities, potentially limiting access to essential programs, resources, and support that are critical for their growth and success. Our shared goal should be to create a budget that not only sustains our educational system, but also helps it thrive. We need to ensure that our students have access to the resources they need to excel and become well-rounded, capable individuals. Let's work together to find a balance between maintaining essential city services and supporting our students' education. By doing so, we can invest in our future and the future of our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Good evening. Kathy Bernie, 96 Centennial Drive. Many of you have seen me here many times before. I'm here tonight to encourage you to reinstate the $1.3 million to the education budget. And I will challenge you to double it, because we all know that the majority of the budget is because there are increases based on the unions. The majority of them are staff. That's the budget. Figure it out. How many of you have been on the Board of Ed? You know this, okay? So if we're increasing all this and it's going to staff, guess what? The rest isn't really getting taken care of, is it? I graduated from Milford Public Schools, and I came back so my kids can go to Milford Public School. We went through many years of just, let's give them a little pittance and try and make it work. It didn't work. It's time to catch up and make Milford as good as we all know it can be. You get what you pay for. You don't invest in education, you're not gonna get the future. It's as simple as that. So I hope you guys do what you need to do and reinstate as much as you can. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Kim Reel. I live at 13 Chaucer Court in Milford. Last year I came here to address you to ask you to reinstate the full education budget. And I raved about the Milford school systems and how they had done so much for my son who was behind and amazing things for my daughter who never was. And I came here prepared to discuss that and give you an update, because I still think that the Milford school systems are some of the best in the state, if not the country. But after listening to everyone talking, I had some confusion. And I think for a second, I lost focus on what's important, because I got kind of caught up in worrying about what happens when you reinstate the budget and who gets paid this and who does that and what do they need. I trust Dr. Kataya to know what we need, and I trust the teachers to know what we need. So I'm going a little bit off cuff. Little did I know, after I talked with you here last spring, that I would kind of get a diagnosis for my son that kind of rocked my world. My son, who is now in 2nd grade, is thriving. And with his new diagnosis, he's on the autism spectrum disorder. If he didn't have his wonderful team of his primary teacher, his special ed teacher, the social worker, the psychologist, the OT, the speech therapist, I don't know where we would be. this year was the first year that I didn't cry after his parent-teacher conference. And I wasn't crying because I felt like they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. I was crying because he was struggling, and I didn't know how to help him. But the Milford school system did. Not only has he been either at grade level or above academically, socially he is thriving. He attends a weekly group called Lunch Bunch, and it's with a social worker. And unbeknownst to him, he gets to sit with her and two friends that he gets to pick. And she teaches him behavioral skills, coping skills, social skills that allow him to have friends. Do you know how hard that is for a kid that has an autism spectrum disorder? How that social anxiety can be crippling? Lunchtime isn't crippling for him anymore. He is thriving. He looks forward to lunch every single day so he can talk to his friends. The problem with these types of disorders is that they're a spectrum for a region, and the spectrum is so wide and so vast. And so if we didn't have those teachers and those specialists and those behavioral interventionists, it wouldn't have been caught, because I can tell you what, it wasn't caught in Southington. It wasn't caught by birth to 3, but it was caught here. And because of that, he's getting the services that it needs. The skills that he's learning also carry over to outside of the school. He's teaching me how to cope with my feelings, and he's teaching his sister how to cope with her feelings, which is important when you're almost 13. The current proposed budget expands on programs that not only benefit him, but benefit the whole entire school population. I get excited when I hear about improvements in adding engineering classes and adding language arts and sign language. The whole point of the Milford school system is to engage its students, because every study you can look at shows that engaging your student population is the most important thing for them to be successful later on. Their success is Milford's success. So I just encourage you to not lose focus like I almost did, and think about our kids when you're deciding this budget, because I too also realize it's a big ask. Thank you.
Hello, good evening. Sky Cornell at 14 Bonsaline Street. A year ago, I stood here in front of you and I was really deeply concerned about losing mental health supports for our students and losing the significant progress that we had made in STEM and world languages at the elementary school level. Those are the programs that my daughter loves, that she thrives. She's not as into the sports, but the STEM programs, fantastic. She comes home so excited. I want to say that I'm really grateful that you heard us. Definitely felt like you did your due diligence, and with bipartisan support, including from our mayor, you reinstated funding. And that's why I'm coming here again today. The Board of Ed has proposed a budget that continues to invest in these really crucial areas, and then in the priorities you've heard about tonight and over the last year that this board supported. These investments really help our kids both thrive now and as they move into the 21st century jobs. I mean, as I think about it, the skills they're going to need, the approaches they need, it's so different from anything that we faced when any of us were in schools. So there's 4 things that I'm going to point out that I think are really meaningful from this budget. I do support the whole budget and the reinstatement of funding. The behavioral challenges, they continue. We see them in the elementary schools. There's funds in here for specialized classrooms and for a board-certified behavior specialist. Those are very important. They not only help the children who need it, but they help the entire classroom. In the middle schools and high schools, we need to see the clinical therapists, in those schools. They're going to address real needs in our community. Unfortunately, we see things like amongst teens, anxiety and depression, growing across the country. It's also just a really smart investment. It leverages funding and a grant that Bridges received and is partnering with Milford Public Schools on. I want to make a note. Kim just mentioned things that are going to be coming, in engineering and things like that in the middle schools and the high schools. These student voice and choice kinds of programs, we call them, world language, musical instruments, digital equipment, printers, esports. These are the kinds of things that our students get excited about. They go into the schools, they want to learn. They learn more, but they're learning in areas that they really care about, and they're finding their community, and that's so important. We heard from the high schoolers last fall, like how important it is to find those other students that care about and are interested in the same things, and that keeps them learning. And finally, I'll just say with career pathways, the career pathways that we're starting to invest in, that this budget starts to put investments in, these are high-growth sectors, they're high-wage jobs, they're what we need to keep families and taxpayers here, in Milford, in the region. It's things like computer science, industries like healthcare that we need the workforce here in Connecticut. So they're really critically important as we are helping our students to be prepared for those jobs. So having watched all the budget workshops, read the materials, I'm really confident that this is a transparent process, and it's a fiscally responsible budget that makes investments where they're really needed for our students. So thank you again. Thank you for your service and for keeping our children and their futures in mind as you do your due diligence in the coming weeks.
Hi, I'm Nancy Dunn, 47 Pamela Drive. As you can probably tell, it's been a while since any of my kids were in school, and I was lucky to go through 12th grade in a school district where the school funding measures always passed. And we benefited from an excellent public school education. In fact, many people who transferred into the district took their kids out of private school and put them in the public school for that reason. As the real estate agent noted, and the small business owner noted, the quality of the schools make a big difference to the community and its regard elsewhere. It's easy to presume that older residents who are on fixed incomes, who have retired, don't care about the schools and wouldn't support fully funding the schools. But I can tell you that I'm not one of those people, and none of my friends are either. In fact, if you think about the number of retirees who decide to downsize, the value of their homes, which relates closely to the quality of the school district, really matters. When we're downsizing or moving out of town, we care about the resale value. We also care about the quality of the education that our taxes are funding, because we know that the kids are our future. We know that the future is more complicated than the one we confronted when we graduated from high school, and the kids need a quality education in order to be able to navigate the changes that are ahead for them. We were glad in our household that both of the mayoral candidates stood for quality education in Milford, and I hope that you will fully fund it so that you can follow through on those promises. I also just want to say one other thing, which is that my inner Girl Scout governs a lot of my behavior, and I'm really, really pleased to see the Brownies here today.
Hi, I'm Sarah Ms.Bromley, 27 Norway Street. I moved to Milford for the schools, period, the end. I looked at lots of other cities and considered it. My husband was working in Stamford. How far can we get from Stamford, or how far can we go, get the best school, and still commute to Stamford? The answer then and the answer now is Milford. Now, my kids are 20 and 25, so I'm a little sad I can't rewind time so they can go through school now with this superintendent's plan and this excellent, excellent work that's happening in our public schools. I was really happy with the schools then. Who knew they were gonna get so much better and so much, like, just more vibrant and offer so much to our youth and to our families and to our community? You know, so I connect good schools, like everyone else here, to a strong economy. I don't have kids in school now, but I fully support them because I've been teaching early childhood education for 40 plus years. Started when I was 5 myself, and you're supposed to laugh then. What? Okay, so yeah, early childhood educators, that's also known as preschool teachers, and some of my former students are in this room right now. And I'm here to tell you, you look at the money that is proposed to spend on social skills, mental health, those needs are on the rise. I teach preschool now, and I'm not naming names to anybody in my class because they're all wonderful kids, but I'm telling you, COVID did a number on our kids. And the world and the pressures of the world are doing a number on our kids and our families. And if we don't invest in their educations and their mental health, like, those needs are not going away. I see evidence of that every day. There's data support this too. So that was the main point: education, economics. Wishing my kids could go now. But guess what? My son also is on the spectrum for autism spectrum disorder. He got a lot of great help here. And I never thought I'd see the day when he would go to college, have a job. And he's at UConn now, thriving. I really don't think he could be there without the support he got here. And if he were to do it again, I think it would have been an easier, even better, easier. So that was it. Oh, one other thing. I have a question, and I know you can't respond, but I'm curious if it's possible that the Board of Finance, as non-elected, they're appointed, not elected. I just feel that it's possible that they may have overreached their role. They were not elected by me, so now they don't have to answer to me, but they should. And they should answer to all of us. So I think they maybe did a little overstep there, and I really hope that you, as elected officials, can fix that. So I appreciate your time so much, because I know you volunteer your time, and I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Marianne Jensen. I live at 1001 Naugatuck Avenue. I also had a student, my son was in public education here in Milford from kindergarten through high school. He's 20 now, so my perspective is a little different. So I'm just going to read a reflection. Investing in local education is crucial for the future of our community and its citizens. The City of Milford has always prided itself on providing high-quality education for our children, and maintaining a strong education budget is essential for continuing this legacy. By prioritizing education funding, we not only support our children's learning and development, but also contribute to the overall well-being and the growth of our community. Preparing our children for the future means equipping them with the skills, knowledge they need to succeed in a rapidly changing world. A well-funded education system ensures that our students have access to the resources and opportunities necessary to thrive in the years to come. Retaining our educated youth and encouraging them to return to Milford, start their own families, is another critical component of a healthy community. By investing in education, fostering a strong supportive environment, we create a place where our children want to raise their own families, perpetuating a cycle of growth and prosperity for generations to come. Cutting the education budget may seem like a quick fix for balancing the city's finances, but it will ultimately have long-lasting negative consequences. Reducing education funding could lead to larger class sizes, fewer resources, and diminished opportunities for our children. Instead, we should look for alternative solutions that prioritize the need for our students, teachers, ensuring that they have the tools they need to succeed. Let's stand together as a community and advocate for a balanced budget that values education and invests in our future generations. The prosperity and the success of Milford depends on strong foundation that quality education provides, as well as an enduring commitment we make to our children and their future within this great city.
Hi, my name is Catherine Lutz. I live at 178 Anderson Avenue in Milford. And I won't even try to add to the remarks of the parents and the professionals of our school system other than to say ditto. I agree with it all. But we all know the city budget is a number of steps, and what I want to ask of you all is to take a look at the city side of the budget. We have not heard anything about that. I know part of the process is the mayor proposes his budget, and I would urge you all to please take a look and see if there are cuts that can be made on the city side of the budget that would offset the cut that the Board of Finance made on the Board of Education. I don't believe at all it all should fall on the education side. That doesn't make any sense fiscally or for our community, I think. The city side of the budget needs to be looked at, and working with the mayor on his budget, look for some cuts on that side. And thank you all, and I appreciate your patience. You have a long process ahead of you, but thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Mike Andrychic. I'm from 42 Darena Place in Milford. I want to just first say that I'm speaking on behalf of my whole family who can't be here tonight because they are at the various things that most of us are doing at this time of year, like baseball games and stuff like that. So they wanted me to just relay this little anecdote to start here. So we have been in Connecticut for about 15 years. We lived in Fairfield when we first came here. Then my wife and I moved to Stratford, where we had our 2 children who are now in the Milford school districts. And one of the things that we became really alarmed with in Stratford was the direction of what we saw as a negative direction of the Stratford public schools, where we were constantly fighting every year to get the funding that we needed. And one of the reasons we moved to Milford is because we saw a community that was really supportive, really beautiful, really welcoming, and also had an excellent education system with a small town feel. And we were looking for all of those things. And it's been disappointing to us that we've had some similar kinds of issues going on with the school budget in Milford over the past few years. So that's the kind of anecdote part of this, and everybody's experience, of course, is different. Now I'd like to speak on a little bit more general level. It seems like everybody so far, the vast majority of people tonight have said that they want a good education system in Milford. So I think we can agree on that for the most part. It seems like the sticking point is how do we get there, right? And what is, where should the money be spent? I will also make, at this point, I will confess that I am not a leader or a scholar in educational leadership. I'm not a professional in that. But most of us in this room aren't professionals in that. We hire people who are professionals in that, and they put together a budget that's very thoughtful, as it was last year. This is not a budget that's asking for any kind of super increase over what happened last year. This is a budget that's put together after long-term planning by people who are specifically trained in how to do this. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't question what they're doing, but it does mean that our input into this process should probably come before the meeting at the end of the year where we decide whether or not to give them the money that they've asked for. There are people who are professionals who do this. Dr. Kutaya has said last year and this year that this is not a budget that's asking for any kind of huge expansion. They are already proposing something that is really just getting us through, right? I also completely understand that we need to be careful about how we spend our tax dollars. I think we always want to be careful about that. And unfortunately, we're in a climate where there's huge inflation and we can't have budget increases of 1% every year. It's unfortunate. That's where we are. We'll stop by just saying that I'm glad to see that all of us are in favor of a good educational system, and I would argue that the best way for us to get there is to make sure that we are participating in the process all throughout, that our leaders in town who are specifically trained in how to put together budgets and educate our children have very thoughtfully and consciously put together. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ms.Heagney, 60 Wildwood Avenue. I came here tonight to support I almost didn't want to talk because I'm going to get emotional. I came here to support my kids' school, their teachers, and I was not planning to speak tonight, but I feel so compelled to speak because I have been a Milford resident for 15 years. 6 years ago, my husband and I were looking to move to Fairfield. We weren't looking to move to Fairfield because of the taxes. We were looking to move to Fairfield because of the schools. And one day I was walking my dog and I stopped a woman and she was waiting for her kids to get off the bus. And I said, "What do you think about the schools here?" And she said, "I love them. You're in good hands." So we said, "Okay, we'll give it a chance." My son went to kindergarten the next year and that school became his family. We now have two kids in that school. And that school has done more for my kids than I ever thought they would. I fully support this budget. And I also want to mention, on a different note, I am a health and life coach. Coaching is growing at hyper growth, the same as Silicon Valley. And do you know why coaching is growing at that rate? It's because coaches believe in the people that they are coaching. Whether they are adults or they are kids, they believe in the success of that person. They also see things that that person doesn't see and other people don't see around them. They're able to draw it out of them and build confidence in that person. I see it in my kids too. The coaches in these schools provide them a safe place. That is the value of coaching. And for those of you that don't think that the coaches in these schools work with the kids, I will tell you, my kids see their coaches out in public and they run up and give her a hug. They love their coaches. So that is a wrong message. Somebody is lost in communication here. Those coaches and every person in these schools are so incredibly valuable. And I'm sorry if nobody sees that, or if some people in here don't see that, but I have two little kids that love going to school, and I do not want 1 ounce of that spark to be taken away from them. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Aldermen, Mr. Mayor. Augie Harrigan, 107 Oronoke Road, and I'm a parent leader. It's baseball season, and what's stuck in my head are the immortal words of Yogi Berra. It's like deja vu all over again. Sadly for Milford, this doesn't really equate to being back-to-back home runs, though, does it? And what I'm referring to, of course, what so many people in this room are here to protest, is a second year of Board of Finance cuts to Milford's proposed education budget. I don't think it makes much sense at this stage to dwell on the hows and the whys of the Board of Finance's decision, even though I find myself pretty bewildered by their tone-deaf copy and paste justifications, some of which have been addressed ad nauseum by Superintendent Gutaya. What matters most is what we can see fit to understand about the impact of a $1.3 million cut to progress. Our long-term programmatic enhancements, like languages, pathway curriculums, the cuts that would occur to maintenance to our facilities and technology, and on the human resources needed to ensure our children's education and well-being in an increasingly complicated world. The Board of Ed's contractual increases have been a known quantity for some time. They're a given. We've seen them, we know them years out. An agreement with the professionals who serve our schools, and they're key to retention and competitiveness in an era when teacher shortages could easily erode our talent pool. What's left, the remaining Board of Education ask, represents a fairly modest increase overall, and one that's pretty in line with inflation and other economic pressures. And when that's all that's left to cut, the system suffers. Can this community sustain this increase? Can we keep up with our investment in the future despite uncontrollable economic headwinds? I believe our healthy grand list and rising median household incomes can and must. I've heard it said here tonight, and I've heard it for many years, that we could do more with less, that we were doing more with less. We spent 10 years under a prior mayor doing more with less, with very modest budget cuts, modest budget cuts, modest increases, ones that barely amounted to what would keep pace with inflation. And I think we did ourselves somewhat irreparable harm and continue to be on a reckoning path with the budgets we see today. But we are here where we are now. I'm hoping this board will see fit to show bipartisan support for the proposed Board of Education budget and override this cut to protect our investment in education and allow the progress to continue. Let's apply these infamous Yogi Berra words to a positive outcome for our community. You have the power to make this right, again. And lastly, every single word Chris Thomas said, I wish I could have said. Every single one of those words is truth. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is Peter Smith, and I live at 65 Oldfield Lane in Milford. And I want to start out by saying thank you. I mean, this is the first part of a long process. This is going to take a lot of time. You probably won't be tempted to nod off as you hear all the different folks come in front of you, but it's a really important process. And thank you, Mayor, for your budget. I know you put a lot of work into it, and you know, it's the beginning of a process, and you're hearing from the public. I think you've heard a lot of positive feedback. I think you've heard some people express their concerns on some things, but a couple of observations that I wanted to make. I started looking into the budget really after the Board of Finance met because of their action. It surprised me a little bit that they were going after funding in the Board of Ed side but didn't touch the city side. I look at this community as a community that we balance. It's really important to provide city services, but it's vitally important to provide good education because that's the foundation of our kids, of our future, of who we are. One of the things that I'd ask as you move forward, and I know you can't do it this year, but if a member of the public goes in and looks at the various budgets, the Board of Education has a very, very robust budget section, a website. It's got over 200 pages of documents. They set the budget up so it tells you how much is being added or subtracted to the account, what the percentage increase is. When you go over to the city side, it's pretty barren. It's a PDF budget that goes from the mayor's budget to the Board of Finance budget. Honestly, it kind of looks like the Board of Ed is 2024, the city side is 2000. I mean, it's almost pre-Windows. But I think the more information that can be provided to the public, the better. I think that's one of the things, and again, it's not a budget item, it's just an observation from somebody who is sort of digging in. What I would ask you is to really spend the time to understand all of those line items. And I'm going to be retired soon. My kids are out of school. I'm not, but I do have grandchildren that are coming into the school system and in the school system. It's really an important part of our community. It's really who we are. And I know a lot of folks have said it before, but we had a mayoral race that was run last year, and we had two candidates for mayor that were running on education. We weren't the kind of community that had attacking the Board of Ed and cut the budget. That wasn't the town that we are. I hope we can continue to stay in that direction because I believe the folks who run for office and get elected and knock on doors and talk to people do it for the right reasons, and they want to do the right thing. And these are really, really difficult times are going to come. We've had some very austere budgets, and Mayor, you put money back into the city side, which was badly needed in many departments, and I appreciate that. But I think that you know, we really need to do a good job of going into the city side of the budget and make sure that it's as austere as it can be, and going on the Board of Ed side, and understanding that the Board of Ed as a group found over $400,000 in savings. And when you really dive into some of the things here, I didn't know what a coach was, a reading coach. I'm looking at this with that football, you play football in a reading class? No, what it is, and when I looked at it, when I understood what they do, and you understand how important that is for kids who need to learn to read, I always learned that it was reading, writing, and arithmetic. And if reading's not important, then what are we doing? The idea that we're talking about going after reading coaches, which helps kids learn to read, doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense to me. Reading is the fundamental foundation of education. And you know, somebody can say, well, they should do it this way or do it that way, but God forbid we're cutting those positions and saying, we don't need them anymore. I think the job you have is tough. I wish you luck. I just, you know, it makes me feel great to hear some of the parents get up here and stand up, and some of the citizens of our community, and just thank you very much for the work you do.
Hi, Teresa Eek, 47 Point Beach Drive. Thank you very much. I know it's going to be a long evening for you all. So I'm a senior, and I very much support education. I'd pay more if I needed to. I have a grandson who's 5 years old. I resent people pitting seniors against children because that's just not true. None of my friends who are seniors are against education, against keeping this full budget. So my grandson is 5. He loves kindergarten. He's already doing STEM in kindergarten. I was like, what? I went to pick him up the other day from his after-school program, and he's barreling like a maniac down the hallway because he wanted me to meet his teacher. So he runs up to her, kisses her tummy, and she said, Jackson, let's bring it down from yellow to green. And he goes, she calmed him down in a moment. I'm yelling down the hallway, Jackson, stop running. I was just like, I wish I had learned this in school. And I just think this education program that we have now in Milford is fabulous, and we need to do everything we can to maintain it. And I hope you'll do the right thing and do that. Thank you.
Hi, Laura Dundas, 45 Carrington Ave. I come from a family of educators. My brother, my mother, my father. When my husband first got a job in New Haven, I spent a year researching everything within 25 miles of New Haven, trying to figure out where we were going to move. We needed to find somewhere we could settle and finally raise our family, and education was obviously our top priority. We chose Milford. My oldest entered Calf Pen in kindergarten in 2020. I was nervous. To be honest, I thought I'd be a tough critic of education, especially being that I sent my baby into a building I had never stepped foot in. However, even in the height of the pandemic, I was thrilled with what I heard and what I saw. In the next few years, I was able to see more of what Milford could offer. I joined the PTA and got into the building to see what was happening every day. I speak with my colleagues and friends teaching across the country and brag endlessly about Milford schools. The small class sizes, STEM and language programs, excellent curriculums, school counselors in the building helping students every day, and most of all, the amazing teachers. As for the coaches, why they are a target of this meeting is beyond me, except that we tend to critique what we don't know. When we were in elementary school, there was no such thing as coaches, so we must not need them. In fact, I was a reading interventionist, so when I first heard Milford didn't have them, I was upset. First, where will I find a job? And second, how are they supporting all of these students? But then I watched and I listened and I saw all that the coaches in our school do every day. I can say that the coaches have directly affected my two boys in a way that is a little different because my boys do well academically. However, at every conference I have attended for both of my children, who are now in 1st and 3rd grade, coaches have been mentioned. Often in the context of, I wasn't sure how to best challenge him in this unit, so I asked the coaches. With this new curriculum, we wanted to see how we could push them more, so the coaches explained these extra resources we have. Coaches are the building experts. Well, I would love it if we could send the teachers to formal trainings on these new curriculums. That is not fiscally responsible. So we train our coaches. They become the experts in the building, and every day ensure that our teachers are getting the most out of all the curriculums that we invest in. I ask that you restore the cuts and improve the budget as it was presented. There is not a better investment than investing in our children and their futures.
Good evening. My name is Kara Flannery, and I live at 41 North Street. And I'm here today to ask for your consideration and vote to fully fund our Board of Education adopted budget and reinstate the $1.335 million reduction imposed by the Board of Finance. I want to thank you for your votes for reinstatement last year as we faced a similar, albeit more desperate circumstance. The budget adopted last year was a status quo budget, and your restoration last year allowed us to squeak by another year at status quo. This year, the board's adopted budget recognized the need to invest in our future and go a little further than status quo, with a budget that recognizes the need for critical investments. Now, on the face of it, it may seem like this reduction by the Board of Finance has essentially put us right back to status quo. But we can't get by another year with deferring these investments. I would argue that deferring these investments would be penny-wise and dollar-foolish, like the investments in specialized programming that will actually save money over time in out-of-district tuition, investments in buildings and grounds and security projects that, if not done, actually puts us at greater risk for greater expense and liabilities down the road. Now, you know, when the Board of Finance voted to reduce the budget again this year, I was disappointed and angry and frustrated that these three individuals once again levied a huge reduction on the proposed school budget. But the more I thought about it, the more I accepted that this is the process. This is the process we all signed up for, and it's why we are all showing up for you in this last stop in the process, to show you that these are the investments that our community wants and needs. You heard talk about taxes tonight. You know, it's funny that this is April 15th, tax day. I just can't miss that. But I see that our grand list is strong. I see that our mill rate is the lowest in the area. And I see that this is a responsible, well-crafted budget that we can accommodate and support. In fact, this 4.7% requested increase is one of the lowest in the area. Now, I know for some of you this must feel like deja vu as we go through this process again, but I was so grateful to all of the aldermen from both parties, all of you who, with your support, you made our budget whole again. Mayor Giannatasio, your advocacy for education funding last year as the board's minority leader was courageous and deeply appreciated, and I ask you for your support again. I am just hoping that through this process, which begs the questions, what future do we want for Milford's kids? What future do we want for our city? What are our priorities? I'm hoping that we come out of this with stronger schools, and a stronger community that shows up year after year to stand up and support them. Thank you for your time.
I'm Juliana Dawson, 72 Lamplight Lane in Milford. I did not plan to come here today. I did not want to come here today to speak because I expected that the vote will go along party lines for the Board of Education budget. I didn't expect much, but I can't stand back there and say nothing and point my fingers at other people that stood up and said something. This is Milford. This is not the game in national politics. This is the community that I live in and the community that all of you live in. And my expectation of the Board of Aldermen, all 15 of you, is that you look at the budget that was given to you by the mayor, by the superintendent for the Board of Ed, and by the Board of Finance, and look at everything and figure it out and support the Board of Education's budget, if not in full, in something close enough to it to give us what we need in this community. And I'm one person that's watching that wasn't watching before. I never used to pay any attention to politics. Since I came here last year and I stood here and talked to you guys, oh gosh, I must have about 200 and something political files that I've saved from reading about each and every one of you, going all the way back to 2019 or whatever, or 2009 to see what you said versus what you did. And Mayor Gennatasio, you had my vote last year when you were sitting over there, and you were the only one that spoke when we were talking to everybody, and I didn't understand why no one was saying anything and why all of the faces looked like that, but I didn't know the rules. I did not know that you guys couldn't talk back to us. I had to go educate myself. I can't blame anybody for that but me, because I decided to stay out of politics all my life, and I decided not to learn. So I spent the last several months learning as much as I can, and I still am totally ignorant. When I read in the newspaper about what the superintendent was being paid, yeah, I kind of was surprised at the number, but guess what? Last night, I went and I looked. Stamford, $319,000. Norwalk, $312,000. She's not getting paid anything near that. Bridgeport, which I chose not to buy my house in, their superintendent is getting paid more than her. I chose to come here because of the schools. I expect the Board of Aldermen to look at everything and to figure something out, and figure it out without raising our taxes by $695,000 on average, or whatever it is. I'm sure there are other solutions. Talk to each other across aisles and figure it out. And I don't know, if your plan is just to be mayor once. The last mayor that I saw in this city was mayor for a very long time. This is your opportunity to talk to all of these people on the other side and on your side and figure it out. This is not, I know national politics is coming up in a couple of months and it's really important, but this is our community, Milford, where we live, and we need to make the decisions for our city. And don't tell me that Bridgeport can afford to invest more in education and their superintendent and so forth more than Milford can. I don't believe that. I know that this community can do better. Thanks for listening.
Sorry, this is as fast as I can walk in these shoes. Lauren Mahler, 11 Plymouth Place, member of the 5th District. Nice to see some familiar faces, and all of you here, everybody rearranging seats since the last time we did this. My wonderful friend Juliana just gave me the best possible intro to this, where she said she has avoided politics her whole life. And I will tell you, I have been working in politics my entire adult life, and I spend a lot of time playing with budgets and playing with numbers and what they mean. And I would much rather be enjoying and having fun in my own way during budget season in my office, and yet we get to keep coming here. So you guys are super fun, but it would be awesome to not schedule around this next year. But I also know that being very familiar with budgets and how they work and how they move and how numbers can say a lot of things you want when you want them to and a lot of things you don't want when you don't want them to, I know that the most important part of a budget isn't actually the spreadsheet. It's not the numbers that you move it around. It's the priorities that are represented by every piece of the spreadsheet. And it's the priorities and it's the people that are behind those priorities. And the budget that you stand by and you support and you put forward, whether you're the mayor or the Board of Education or anyone else in this process, the Board of Finance, tells us everything we need to know about what you think is important for Milford and for our future and for our kids. And in my perspective, what I see in front of us tonight, again, is an opportunity to choose. And it's an opportunity to choose a future, not just for Milford, but for all of our kids who are here, for all the parents that you've heard from who moved here because the schools were great and they wanted that for their children. They wanted better for them. And for the last however many years, this city at every level of the process, from the community, families, to the Board of Ed, to finance, to the mayor, to the aldermen, have supported year after year after year budgets that move us towards a future for the kids in our city and the future for our city that we have all agreed to, that we all want, one that provides opportunity and prepares our children for the future, both as people and as professionals, and sets them up to be successful in whatever they choose to do. And that's not an overnight project. You don't flip a switch and turn a ship like that. It takes year after year after year, and every single part of this community and this political process and this budget process has supported that until last year, where all of a sudden, out of nowhere, 3 people on the Board of Finance said, you know what, I don't like that anymore. I think that vision is too fun for our kids. I think it gives them too much. I think we need to slow it down just a little bit and maybe do something different. And you saw what happened last year. This community was outraged. Everybody came out, spoke out, families, business owners, seniors, people at every part of our community across the spectrum spoke out, and this board worked really hard and made some really hard decisions and took some action that actually said, you know what, thank you, 3 members of the Board of Finance, we appreciate your backwards ideas, but we support the vision that we have been working towards for years, and we're gonna keep doing that. And somehow, here we are again. I'm not quite sure how, but I still think there's 3 members on the Board of Finance who have an idea that is different from what the rest of us think is appropriate for the future of our city and for our kids. And I seem to remember a lot of campaign mailers showing up at my house last year saying that individuals who are running for mayor are really excited to work with the Board of Education to fully fund everything that our schools need. You know what? Board of Ed did its job. Now it's on to somebody else. So now is the time where everyone on this board and you, Mr. Mayor, have to make a choice. Which vision are you going to support? Are you going to continue the progress that we have been making for 10 plus years to move our city to a place where our kids can thrive in the real world, whether it's here in Milford, whether it's in Connecticut, or whether it's elsewhere? On whatever stage they choose to be themselves on, they are ready for it. Or are you going to agree with the 3 members on the Board of Finance who said, you know what, nope, too much. Let's go back just a little bit. Let's just hold tight where we are. That's probably good enough. You are the only ones who can take that choice. So I put the question to you now. Which version of the future do you support? Is it the one that supports our kids and the vision that this community has supported for years? Or is it the one that you put on a campaign mailer to get votes when it mattered, and now you're not willing to step up and take the action? That's the question now. Who's going to actually be brave enough to take the action for the future that we've all been working towards? Thank you.
Is there any more people who want to speak on the Board of Education side of the budget? Seeing none, we'll move on to the city side of the budget. Any speaker wishing to speak on the city side of the budget, come to the podium. Thank you.
Good evening. My name's Pam Pilla, 370 Rock Lane.
Can we wait a minute? Right.
That's fine.
Mr. Chair? Well, we can just take a few minutes.
Ready? Okay, again, I'm Pam Pilla, 370 Rock Lane. I am the president of the Friends of the Milford Library, and I'm here to tell you that I support the budget for the Milford Library. I believe the library is a vital service and provides vital services to our community. On a more personal note, I read ebooks. With my vision, I find it much more comfortable to read with a Kindle, and I borrow ebooks from the library. It's incredibly frustrating that I have to wait months, and I've waited up to 9 months to get a title that I've had on loan, or I've had on hold. So again, I completely support the library budget as it stands, including the e-content line item, which I know has been increased this year. But I also know that the e-content has increased substantially over the past couple of years, and I can tell you that I'm waiting longer and longer for books. So again, I support the library and the library budget. Thank you.
Hi again, Chris Thomas, 8 Argyle Road. I just wanted to stand up and speak in support of the town budget as well. As with the Board of Education budget, to the extent you can, please look over it as people have asked you and look for things. But I, for one, I gotta say, I'm gonna be the one who gets up and champions Milford. For what I pay in taxes, for what me and my wife pay in taxes to raise our family here, the amount of services we get back is wonderful. We love almost I'm going to say every part of this town. The services we get, being able to take stuff to the transfer center, having the bulk pickup, our wonderful police and fire departments, our wonderful other services. So I know you have a task ahead of you. I know there are people who definitely care about taxes more than I do. I am very happy to pay my tax bill and get all the wonderful services and to raise my family here. So thank you guys very much.
Yeah, raise taxes, yay. Sarah Aaron Bromley, 27 Norway Street. I see you laughing. So different subject, obviously. I'm here to ask about Fair Rent Commission, because in the last week and last month, I've had 3 people. I'm pausing here because it may not be the right time.
We went through this, Phil.
You're speaking on the city side of the budget, right? Right now, we're speaking on the city side of the budget.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess, because I believe there's probably a financial piece to this, so attached to what I'm asking about, what I'm asking for. How about I read it and we see what happens? It is about Fair Rent Commission. I'm asking.
Can we have to have a
Do we need a ruling?
recess to discuss it? So.
Are you finished, sir?
No, I was waiting to see if I should speak.
If I may, Sarah, I think the discussion is that it might not be pertinent to the city side of the budget, and this might be better suited for public comment during our regularly scheduled meeting, first Monday of the month.
Okay, thank you.
Any other speakers to speak on the city side of the budget? Please come to the podium at this time. Seeing none, is there a motion to recess? The next budget meeting will be on Wednesday, April 17th, 2024. Do we have a motion to recess? So moved. Oh, it's Richie. Recess. All in favor?
Mr. Chairman, just for a point of clarification, we note it's a 7 p.m. start. Today was unique, being at 5:30 to accommodate the large crowd, but all other budget meetings will start at 7 p.m.
And the rest of the budget meetings is going to start at 7 o'clock. Thank you, Justin. We're in recess.